What's up, everybody? Thank you for coming back for another episode of Fight the Psyops. If you're watching this on YouTube, hey, you've probably been wondering, where the heck has Joey been? Well, YouTube decided to put me in YouTube jail because of the fact they suggested I perform medical misinformation by sharing a video stated and said and voiced by somebody from the World Health Organization. It wasn't even me. It wasn't even my words. I didn't change it. It was the actual video itself. Regardless, we understand there is an attack against our First Amendment right of free speech and truth. And so because of that, thank goodness for you wonderful supporters who follow me. I had some people following me I didn't even know were legal experts in the realm of First Amendment rights. And Pro Bono have decided to come on and help to navigate some of that space. So thank you so much. Some great things coming ahead. And I think you guys will appreciate that. If you're watching this here on Rumble, thank you for supporting and jumping over with me. Rumble.com/fightthepsyops. Guys, link for everything, including donations, merch, my ebook, audiobook on how to fight ideological subversion or psychological warfare, and how to actually fight these psyops and understand how to attack them and wake other people up. It's all there. Links down in the description. Make sure you get your copy, you support. We are fully independent, alternative media, and without you, we can't do what we do. But today I want to throw a scenario at you guys. And I want you to think about this as I mention it to you. And if you're watching the rerun, the replay of this, drop a comment, okay? Because I want your take on this. I want your response. And you can also call our hotline number, 323-736-1073. You can leave a voice message there about this topic and commenting on this. Or if you're in the live right now, you can just drop it in the chat. I'm watching it right now. And a big what's up, and an I love you to all of you beautiful people. Thank you for following. So let's hop into this. Here's the scenario I'm going to throw at you. So imagine you're being subpoenaed to court. You get a subpoena. You have to appear. They give you a date. On that date, you decide, I'm not going to show up, and you don't. What happens to you when you decide not to show up at that date? Well, likely, while I'm watching you guys comment here, drop your comments. Likely what is going to happen, right? Exactly. You are going to be hit with a warrant for your arrest. And if you show up to court on your next court date, you're likely going to be held in contempt. But either way, whether through a warrant or through a contempt order that's delivered down from a judge, you are going to go to jail. Whether it be for a couple hours, a day, maybe a couple days, whatever that may be, you are going to face that. And then you're going to face the legal consequences and repercussions that are associated with the decision that you made to fail to appear and be there, right? That's what would happen for a normal U.S. citizen. But if you're the son of Joe Biden, son of the president, son of a political figure, somebody in the dual system of our judicial system, right? There's a double standard of law that applies. Because for those of you who haven't watched, Hunter Biden was subpoenaed to come into an oversight committee and give testimony. But instead of showing up, he decided, hey, I'm not going to show up. Doesn't show up. They end up having another meeting regarding whether or not they're going to hold him in contempt. They're giving out information. The guy in a spectacle decides to show up with his little mini entourage and his Hollywood attorney that pop into the courtroom there in Washington, or into this oversight committee, rather. They show up. And in any other instance, if you or I were to fail to comply with the subpoena and then just randomly show up at the next date, what would happen? Judge would say, hey, bailiff, go get this clown right here and lock him up. Get him out of my sight. Right? But not Hunter Biden. Matter of fact, he comes and sits in this whole thing, creates this spectacle, this show. And then once MTG gets her time to speak and to say something, the dude gets up and walks out of court. So while these proceedings are going on within this oversight room, this oversight committee, he's out with lights, camera, action. The press is all over him. He walks out, does a press conference. Totally, I mean, just ridiculous spectacle display. Anybody else would be arrested. Anybody else would have handcuffs immediately placed on them. They'd be getting in a car, going down to jail, but not Hunter Biden. And even with the fact that he's got all this stuff stacked against him, the Biden crime family, right? We're talking about all the wires that we now have access to, whether it be from sources in China, whether it be from Ukraine, whether it be from Russia, and the mayor's wife that was there, this rich oligarch who had given them all kinds of money, the Rosemont Seneca situation, all these number of things that have transpired and taken place that we now know that are confirmed. His laptop and all the junk that's on there. Who knows who else is connected there? Maybe there's Epstein people connected. Maybe Clinton's connected. Who knows who's connected there? But regardless, they have all the evidence stacked and he just walks free. Now they finally decided, they said, hey, we're going to say that he's in contempt of court. Now they got to pass it up to a few other places to see what they're actually going to do. I doubt anything is going to happen. Maybe a slap on the wrist. But I was thinking about this. And the double standard of law in our country, how crazy it is, man. How many people are in jail right now or in prison for lesser crimes, petty crimes, but this guy walks around free, privileged because of who he is, what his last name is, and the political connections that he has access to. And this is just another area for me of confirmation that our government, our judicial system is failing us and has failed us. It's broken. You talk about people who are divorcing, right? They have to say, hey, this relationship is irrevocably, like it's done, it's toast. There's no chance of us being able to work this thing out. And I think this is that instance. I don't believe that in the position we're in as a country with who we're governed by, there is a means to repair this relationship. The corruption in the deep state, and I'm not talking about just on the Democratic side, it's all sides because it's all one. And to think that there's truly a separation because of party in the government, you're missing the whole thing. You've missed it. They have put in place in their positions of power and authority, their various pillars, their various complexes, whether it be the military industrial complex, the medical industrial complex, it doesn't matter. They've positioned these things in place and they've locked the system so that they say what happens. They say who gets installed. They say who maintains and holds a position, and they're not going to give it up. It is a chokehold. And it's irrevocably broken, beyond repair. And something needs to change. Now, as I begin to talk myself into this information and have some conversations with friends, family members, and some other colleagues and people that I really trust that have some political knowledge, and even a couple people, sources that I have in positions of politics, we've discussed a number of things about this. And I think that, we obviously know Joe Biden can't run moving forward. He's not going to. If he did, I would be shocked, and I'd be the first to admit, hey, I was wrong. I think, though, Joe Biden is going to bow out. Initially, I had said that Joe Biden was going to bow out early. Kamala was going to pop in, take over for, a number of months. And then they were going to transition to another candidate who I'll mention to you, who I think that is in just a second on the Democratic side. But looking at the landscape of things now, I don't see Joe Biden bowing out early. And here's the reason why. Hunter's in legal trouble. Joe now is in some type of legal trouble, right? What I think is he's going to remain in power throughout the rest of his tenure. The reason being is he's going to exercise his presidential pardons to pardon Hunter, himself, and anyone else involved in any of their other corruption schemes, any of their other friends, maybe the Clintons as well because of their ties with Epstein, maybe other celebrities and people that they have in play because of their connections and ties with a bunch of other schemes that have been happening, including child sex trafficking or whatever it may be. I think the reality is that's what's going to take place. And so he's going to maintain that seat until then. I don't think Kamala would be the next candidate on the Democratic side because from sources that I've discussed this with as well, they've mentioned that there's already been conversations to give her a seat in the U.S. Supreme Court, to guarantee her a seat there. And in doing so, they're going to give her that lifetime lock. So the only way that you can ever exit that seat is either dying or retiring, but you can't lose it. So it's a lifetime guarantee, a lock for her of a paycheck and a position in authority, if you will. So I don't think it's her. Now, who do I think that candidate would actually be? I have a strong sneaking suspicion it's going to be Michelle Obama. And let me tell you why. And I wrote this down in some of my notes because I found this to be interesting after doing some research on this. Before Barack came onto the scene, before he was really even known, they had this program that they had organized and put together called Project Vote. And essentially what it did is it educated people on voting, why they need to vote, but it gathered their information to find out what type of candidate that they would want to run the country. And from that, they gathered all that information and tailored that into Barack and made him that candidate. And people obviously voted him in, and the rest was history. Now, Michelle, interestingly enough, is doing the same exact thing. They have a new program called When We All Vote. Same exact thing. This is backed by a $26 million check. And do you want to know who that check was written by? Who it was provided by, funded by? None other than George Soros. I did the research on this. I found it out, and I wanted to share that with you guys because it is all motivated. It is all staged. It is all set to occur. And they're going to put their front runner as Michelle Obama, with the VP pick most likely being Gavin Newsom. Remember, I showed you the videos of him with Xi Jinping. Why would a governor travel to China and go meet with Xi Jinping and then have him come, and everything he did to all of a sudden clean up the streets of San Francisco and put everything in gates to kick all the homeless people off the streets to make it a red carpet event, essentially rolled out for Xi Jinping? Because of the fact that he's already planning the installation move of what they're going to do next. He's a puppet. And so that's my idea. That's my thought concerning the Democratic side. Now, if you're paying attention to the Republican side, Nikki Haley has become the front runner there. Chris Christie bowed out. They believe other candidates are getting ready to bow out. They believe DeSantis is getting ready to announce that he's bowing out as well, and will most likely become her VP pick. So regarding Nikki Haley, I thought this was interesting to know. Nimarata Nikki Randhawa. Nikki Haley's real name. Nikki Haley, they say, is also an installation from the deep state. And the fact that they're trying to conglomerate to push everything against Trump. Now, I'm not saying Trump's a saint. I don't believe that you get in a position of power and authority at that level unless you are installed. For whatever purpose it might serve, whether good or bad, there's still a purpose and there's still an installation that occurs. I believe that our system is at such a corrupt level, guys, that I think there's only one way to truly fix it. And I was reading this in our Declaration of Independence. It's a shortened version of the Declaration of Independence. Nonetheless, I thought it was very important to read this point, and I'll pull this up here. You guys obviously know this portion of it, right? A lot of people know this because of Hamilton, unfortunately, but hey, at least you know it. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, okay? And no, I'm not going to finish with the lines from the song. It goes on to actually say that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now listen to this closely. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Governments are instituted among men. How? Deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Did you catch that? That means that the only way they get power is when they've been given consent to receive that power and then act out that power that they were given. We, by consent, have given them the power. So these crazy things we hear, whether it be agendas like the 6 feet social distancing thing from Fauci that we recently found out in his committee hearings that wasn't backed by any science. It was just something they made up. And if you didn't hear that, I hope that angers you very deeply. What about all the various things that they tried to do by forcing vaccinations to keep your job or to stay in the military? What about the fact of travel bans or getting people to, have to show some type of vax card or ID to prove that they were vaccinated in order to travel? What about that? What about Agenda 2030? What about the number of other things that they want to institute that we are essentially, it says, giving them consent to do? We have to give them consent. So when we stand back and say nothing, that is what we are doing. We are giving them that consent to proceed forward with the powers they've been giving to rule over us. But here's the kicker, and I've highlighted this part, and I'll throw it up on the screen as well for you guys to see. It says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right, okay? Notate that part right there. Maybe take clips of this and share this out. It is the right of the people to alter or to abolish, and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Do you feel safe right now? I don't. Do you feel happy in this current regime? I do not. And I think a lot of that ties back to the fact that we understand now, when we look at the landscape of things, this is rigged from top to bottom. Judicial system, our government, the way the laws are carried out, rules for thee, but not for me. It's obvious to see, it's very clear that the corruption is at such a level that is irreparable. So my thought is, how can we, through this Declaration of Independence, because I think these guys, the authors of this, looked at this situation and said, you know what, hey, government will work this way right now, so we'll play it out like this. But down the road in the future, we better put some provisions because we don't know what the world's going to look like at that point in time. It might change completely. It might look differently. Technology, the advancements on marketing, so, psychological situations and how they can pitch things to people, how fast the world will be then. We need to put provisions and something in place so that if things get to a level where people realize that there's corruption, they can alter or abolish this government. They can come in and change this thing and make it right. We need to put those provisions within this to make that occur. And that's exactly what they did. But the more that we consent and do nothing, the more they are going to govern and control with the power in which they've been given by us, we the people. So I'm looking at this, and if somebody were to come and ask me and say, Joey, okay, well then, and maybe you're asking this to yourself right now, well then what would you do? Okay, well, what would your solution be? Because you're so smart, you're telling us all these things, but what would you actually do? Well, here's what I would do. In theory, I would clear out all government. I would wipe the slate clean from every person that's in office, wipe it clean. Then we would put a system in place that the people, not by some machine, but by paper, have to vote in 2 to 3 levels of checks and balances that would occur. Meaning that every couple years, you have a panel of people in these 2 to 3 sections of government that would be replaced by new people. But during their tenure, they would run checks and balances on those in positions of authority. They would run checks and balances on the president, his cabinet, the financial system. We would end the Fed, the Federal Reserve, which is a privatized entity. And I don't want to go into all that because who knows if YouTube will hit me with something else. But if you go and you research it, you'll find out and see what I'm saying. I've put videos about this as well. We need to end the Fed. We need to go back to a gold-backed base system. Then what we do is with these 3 levels of checks and balances, now we have a tournament-style election system. 16 candidates, starts off with the Sweet 16. Doesn't matter about politics in terms of Republican or Democrat, independent. All that is wiped. All parties are wiped. There's only one party. That's the American Party. You have a round of 16. It goes to 8, goes to 4. You still have some fun, right? You get your final 4 in there. Then you have your last 2, and then your president, the person who becomes a president, who is then able to select their cabinet, have their 4 years and run like the style that we typically do, and that's it. But people who serve in government, whether it be in a judicial system, whether it be as Congress or Senate, all of that type of stuff, that's completely wiped. And there's different types of naming conventions that are given to people to handle different policies and aspects of government, but they have a limited tenure of no more than 4 years that they can serve in that capacity. And I believe that will eliminate and cut down the lobbyists who go in from the medical industrial complex, who pitch these big pharmaceuticals and pump all this stuff into our country that are getting people sick, giving them cancer, killing them. Then it also eliminates the issues from the military industrial complex and those who are warmongers and want to go out and start war like what we're seeing right now. Look at the Middle East situation. One of our vessels gets attacked, and now we're saying it's going to be an all-out war. We already hit 16 different sites, and who knows what's going to take place next. These countries are vowing to threaten and come against and attack the United States. There's already a declaration of an imminent attack by Hezbollah on U.S. soil. I mean, these things are very real. And we've come to a place where what we are in is irrevocably, it's broken, man. It's broken. It's irreparable. And we need to do something about it. And I feel like something like that, in theory, would benefit us tremendously, but it has to be by the will of the people coming together and making this happen. So I wanted to deliver that to you guys. I want to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments down below or continue to drop into the live chat as well. Let me know what you guys think about this. Guys, look, I appreciate all your support. Whether you're here on YouTube, whether you're watching on Rumble, whether you're on IG live watching this, maybe X, thank you all. I appreciate all of you guys, and I love you so much. As an independent alternative media entity, we cannot survive without your support. Look, if you would right now, hit the link in my bio. You can pick up some merch. You can drop a donation. You can pick up my ebook or audiobook on how to fight ideological subversion. You can always do that. And guys, follow us. Turn on the bell for notifications. Okay? Connect with us. Share this out. Let people know about this information. And I want to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't called in yet, listen, we have a hotline where you can drop your take. You can put a take on anything you want, a topic, question. And then we want to feature you on the show. Okay? 323-736-1073 is the number. Give us a call. Hit us up. Shoot us a text. If you watch on Spotify, your podcasts, you can watch and listen to us on Spotify now. You can drop comments there as well. And you can also send us direct voice messages on Spotify. So be aware of that. But guys, I love you. I thank you so much. And I hope this gave you some value today, some things to think about. Let's figure out a way to get our country back and put this back in right position. And as always, continue to fight those psyops. See you soon.